What if I told you that the great confrontation between the United States and China, the defining geopolitical struggle of our time, is not a new Cold War? What if I told you it is the most sophisticated, most expensive, most masterfully produced stage play in human history? And you are not a citizen whose interests are being protected. You are simply a member of the audience, forced to purchase a ticket with your freedom and your property. Turn on your television, open any major news site. The script is predictable, the narrative relentless. A cacophony of urgent voices, sensational headlines, and dramatic graphics bombards you from every direction. CNN, Fox News, the BBC. They all sing from the same hymn sheet, their voices rising in a carefully orchestrated chorus of alarm. China is building strategic ports in places like Brunei, they say, a string of pearls to choke global maritime routes. Chinese warships are spotted, provocatively, near the coast of Alaska, a direct challenge to American sovereignty. The story they sell is a classic, a tale as old as time, a plucky, freedom-loving order standing against a monolithic, expansionist-minded authoritarian regime. It's a simple, digestible conflict. It's good versus evil. It's us versus them. And it is a lie. This is not a lie in the conventional sense, not a simple misstatement of fact. The warships are real, the ports are being built. The lie is in the context, the lie is in the why. We are encouraged to see these events as spontaneous acts of aggression from a rogue state. We are trained to react with fear, with a primal sense of tribal loyalty. But to understand what is truly happening, you must stop looking at the actors on the stage and ask, who built the stage itself? This is not a Cold War, it is the grand stage. The events you see reported are not isolated incidents, they are carefully choreographed scenes. A Chinese destroyer off the coast of Alaska is not an act of war. It is a piece of stage direction, perfectly timed to justify the next multi-billion-dollar budget for the Pentagon. An American carrier strike group sailing through the South China Sea is not a defense of freedom. It is the corresponding scene, designed to elicit a predictable, nationalistic response from Beijing. They are two actors playing their assigned roles to perfection, ensuring the drama never ceases. The tension must be maintained, but all-out war must be avoided, because a real war destroys assets. A sustained, managed conflict, a perpetual crisis, that is where the real profit lies. And this brings us to the most difficult truth of all. You are not the person this play is meant to protect. You are its primary resource. When you see a headline about the Chinese threat, you are not being informed, you are being programmed. The fear they instill is the currency they use to purchase your consent. Your consent to be taxed more heavily to fund the weapons of corporations like Raytheon and Lockheed Martin. Your consent for the relentless inflation that erodes your savings, a silent transfer of wealth from your pocket to the balance sheets of the global financial elite. Your consent for the expanding web of surveillance and social controls, all justified under the banner of national security. You are told this is the price of freedom, but you are not buying freedom. You are paying for your own cage. Do not choose a side, no side in this artificial war. The moment you wave a flag, the moment you embrace the us versus them narrative, you have already lost. You have become an unpaid actor in their production, a willing extra in the grand spectacle of your own disenfranchisement. They don't want you to ask the most important question, cui bono? Who benefits? Who benefits from a world in a constant state of low-grade, high-stakes antagonism? Look at a map of the world not as a collection of nations, but as a series of meticulously chosen stage sets. The Taiwan Strait, the South China Sea, the ports in the Indian Ocean. These are not just geopolitical hotspots, they are the settings for the most critical scenes. They are designed for maximum visual impact, for headlines that write themselves, for a narrative of impending conflict that keeps the public transfixed and terrified. They are counting on you to see the red flag of China or the stars and stripes of America and to miss the invisible hands pulling the strings. The presidents, the prime ministers, the chairman, they are the lead actors. They deliver their lines with passion and conviction. They read from a script of national honor and strategic necessity. But they are not the directors. They are not the producers. They are certainly not the ones who profit from ticket sales. So, who is? Who are the architects of this grand deception? Who writes the script that leaders on opposite sides of the world seem to follow so faithfully? Who sells the tickets and reaps the rewards from our fear? To find them, we must look away from the floodlit stage. We must venture into the shadows, backstage, where the real power resides. If this is a play, then our next act must be to identify the directors. In the next chapter, we will pull back the velvet curtain and look directly into the faces of the true puppet masters, standing in the darkness. We asked who pulls the strings. We asked who writes the script. The answer is not a single entity, not a shadowy cabal of men meeting in a smoke-filled room. It is something far more powerful and insidious, a tripartite alliance of interests, an unholy trinity of power that has no flag, no anthem, and no loyalty except to its own perpetuation. To understand them, you must understand their roles in this grand production. First, we have the stagehands and prop masters. These are the men and women in the boardrooms of Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, and Boeing. They are the beneficiaries of the most straightforward transaction in this entire play, the conversion of your fear into their profit. The media, their willing megaphone, broadcasts an image of a Chinese warship sailing near Alaska. Within days, a chorus of retired generals and hawkish congressmen, many of whom receive handsome donations from these very corporations, appear on screen to warn of a capability gap. The public, conditioned by decades of such narratives, reacts with predictable anxiety. The solution? A new multi-billion-dollar contract, paid for by your taxes, for a new missile system, a new generation of fighters, a new fleet of destroyers. Look at the stock charts of these companies. They are a near-perfect cardiogram of geopolitical tension. A crisis in the Taiwan Strait, the stock surges. A fiery speech from a Chinese official, the stock climbs higher. This is not a coincidence. This is a business model. They are not arms dealers. They are merchants of perpetual conflict. For them, peace is poison. Stability is bankruptcy. The Chinese threat is the single greatest marketing campaign in their history, a golden goose that lays billion-dollar eggs. They are the insatiable Moloch of our time, a beast of steel and circuit boards that feeds on headlines of war and excretes instruments of death, all while being hailed as patriots. They build the props for the play, the ships, the planes, the missiles, and in doing so, they ensure the drama will never end. But stagehands, no matter how wealthy, do not direct the play. They merely furnish the stage. To find the directors, we must look higher. We must look to the financiers who bankroll the entire production. Who are they? You know their names, but you may not understand their function. BlackRock, Vanguard, Goldman Sachs. These are not merely investment firms. They are the true puppet masters, the global croupiers in a casino where nations are the gamblers. They have perfected the art of betting on both red and black and always winning. The fundamental lie of the US-China conflict is that you must choose a side. These entities do not choose a side. They own both. Dig into the public filings. It is not a secret, merely an inconvenient truth hidden in plain sight. You will find that the same asset management giants that hold controlling stakes in American defense contractors like Boeing also hold massive investments in Chinese state-owned enterprises like PetroChina. They provide the capital for the American war machine while simultaneously funding the economic engine of its designated adversary. This is the ultimate game. When tensions rise, they profit from the surge in defense stocks. When a manufactured rapprochement occurs, they profit from the rally in Chinese markets. The conflict itself becomes a financial instrument, a lever they use to generate volatility. Geopolitical risk is not a danger to them. It is a product they create and sell. They do not care if the American puppet or the Chinese puppet wins the staged fight. They only care that the fight continues, because in the ensuing chaos, assets are devalued, currencies fluctuate, and they, with their godlike access to capital and information, can sweep in and purchase entire sectors of the global economy for pennies on the dollar. Your enemy is not a soldier in a foreign army. Your enemy is a system that uses your tax money to build a bomb while simultaneously investing in the factory that is the bomb's intended target. This brings us to the final, most terrifying member of this trinity, the architects, the philosophers of control. If the MIC builds the stage and the financiers bankroll the show, the architects are the ones designing the theater itself, a new global theater in which all of us will be captive performers. These are the supranational organizations like the World Economic Forum and the Bilderberg Group. They are not conspirators in a cartoonish sense. They are patient, ideological engineers. They publish their plans for all to see, couched in the benign language of progress and sustainability. They use the crises manufactured by their partners, the geopolitical tensions, the financial panics, the orchestrated supply chain breakdowns, as justification for their pre-planned solution. They call it the Great Reset. Look at their own documents. Listen to their leaders, like Klaus Schwab, who speak of a fourth industrial revolution where the lines between the physical, digital, and biological are blurred. They openly advocate for central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, a technology that would grant them the power to monitor, authorize, or deny every single transaction you make. This is the ultimate goal. The US-China conflict is the perfect catalyst. It provides the cover of national security to roll out digital IDs, to censor disinformation that challenges the official narrative, and to justify a level of societal control once thought impossible in the free world. They are building a prison and marketing it as a smart city. So there they are, the unholy trinity, standing in the shadows behind the curtain. The arms dealer who needs a permanent enemy, the financier who owns both sides of the conflict, and the ideologue who uses the ensuing chaos to build a new world order. They work in perfect symbiosis, a feedback loop of fear, profit, and control. Now that we have stared into the faces of the puppet masters, we must ask the final question. What, precisely, does this new world they are building look like? What is the master blueprint for the global prison they are constructing? In the next chapter, we will unveil the architectural plans of the Great Reset, a detailed schematic for controlling what you eat, where you travel, what you earn, and even what you think. It is the endgame, and it is much further along than you imagine. We left off in the antechamber of power, having identified the trinity of interests that directs our world from behind the curtain, the arms dealer, the financier, and the ideologue. But identifying the puppeteers is only the first step. To truly understand the trap being laid for us, we must now examine the blueprints of the prison they are constructing. The endgame is not the US-China conflict itself. That is merely the demolition phase. The endgame is what they intend to build upon the ruins. Let us begin with the first pillar of this new architecture, sold to you under the benign label of supply chain security. The narrative is persuasive and simple. The pandemic and rising tensions with China have shown us how fragile our access to essential goods is. We must bring manufacturing home. We must secure our sources of semiconductors, rare earth minerals, and medical supplies. It sounds like a patriotic and prudent course of action, but you must learn to read the code. Whenever they say security, you must hear control. They are not securing the supply chain for you, they are seizing it from everyone else. Look at the legislation passed under this pretext, like the CHIPS Act. It is not a broad-based revival of industry. It is a monumental transfer of your tax money into the pockets of a handful of pre-selected megacorporations. They are using the threat of China to justify a state-sponsored cartelization of the global economy. Small and medium-sized businesses, the true heart of any free market, are systematically squeezed out, unable to compete with the subsidized giants. The spiderweb of global trade is being deliberately torn apart, only to be respun with the architects and their corporate partners sitting at its absolute center, controlling every strand. They are not ending globalization, they are perfecting it into a top-down system of absolute dependency, where a few boards of directors in New York and London decide who gets to produce what and who gets to buy it. The risk of China is the marketing slogan for the greatest corporate power grab in human history. The second pillar of the prison is national security, but this has nothing to do with protecting borders and everything to do with demolishing the boundaries of your personal life. Creating a foreign enemy is the oldest trick in the tyrant's handbook. It provides the perfect, unassailable justification for what would otherwise be unthinkable. In the name of fighting Chinese espionage, they demand access to your data from tech companies. In the name of combating foreign disinformation, they build censorship algorithms that silence domestic dissent. They are conditioning you to accept surveillance as a normal part of life. Look east to their designated enemy. They point to China's social credit system as a vision of digital dystopia, and they are right. It is a horror. But while you are looking there, what are they building here? A network of surveillance cameras? Check. Digital IDs being pushed as a necessity for travel and services? Check. Financial institutions flagging transactions based on political keywords? Check. They are not fighting the Chinese model. They are competing with it. They are luring us, the bleeding sheep of the West, into a digital pen of our own, convincing us it's for our own good. They label the pen safety and security, but its purpose is the same: to track, to monitor, to control. The conflict with China is the moral cover they need to import the most effective tools of the Chinese system, all while claiming to be its greatest opponent. This brings us to the keystone of the entire structure, the final lock on the prison door. It is not a missile, it is not a new law. It is the reinvention of money itself. They call it Central Bank Digital Currency, or CBDC. They will sell it to you as progress, the end of dirty cash, instant transactions, a modern financial system for a modern world. This is the most profound lie of all. CBDC is not a currency, it is a system of control. It is a programmable token that will exist in a government-controlled digital wallet. To understand the horror of this, you must understand what programmable means. It means the issuers, the central banks, the true seat of power for the financier class, can set the rules for how you use your own money. Imagine a world where your digital dollars have an expiration date to force you to spend and not save. Imagine a world where your money is coded to be unacceptable for purchasing items they deem undesirable. Too much red meat, a tank of gasoline, a book that questions their narrative. Think of the power this grants them. Did you attend a protest? Your ability to transact could be temporarily frozen. Did you post disinformation online? Your funds could be restricted, your account shut down with no recourse. This is not a futuristic prediction. This is the stated goal. The heads of the Bank for International Settlements, the central bank of central banks, have openly spoken of the absolute control a CBDC would give them. The Chinese conflict provides the perfect excuse. We need it to counter China's digital yuan, to fight money laundering, to stop illicit financing. Problem, reaction, solution. There it is, the master blueprint. A global economy run by a corporate cartel justified by supply chain security. A populace monitored and censored around the clock, justified by national security. And a system of financial control so total it borders on the divine, justified by financial modernization. They are building a prison and marketing it as a smart city. The Trinity works in perfect harmony. The World Economic Forum and its ideologues design the plans for this great reset. BlackRock and the financial titans will manage the trillions of dollars in assets being reallocated in this new economy. And the military-industrial complex will ensure there is always a new crisis, a new Chinese threat brewing on the horizon to serve as the engine of fear that drives the entire project forward. The final price you pay is not a mushroom cloud. It is the quiet, sterile, and complete subjugation of your free will. It is the birth of a global technocratic financial regime where your life is managed by algorithms written by your masters. This war is not fought with armies on a battlefield. It is fought in your mind and with the contents of your wallet. So, you must awaken, now. Begin by asking the one question that unravels it all. Cui bono? Who benefits? Ask it of every headline, every policy, every politician's speech. Do not trust the story of us versus them that they feed you daily. The first step to breaking the chains is to see them. Educate yourself beyond their approved sources. Diversify your assets. Move a portion of your wealth outside of a financial system that is being primed for this very transformation. And most importantly, you must share this understanding. The greatest fear of the architects is not a revolution in the streets. It is a revolution in the mind. It is a populace that simply stops believing in their play. If they can orchestrate geopolitical tensions on this scale to remake our economic and social lives, what else are they capable of? What other crises might be purpose-built to justify even more radical transformations? In our next broadcast, we will dissect the largest narrative of our time, the climate crisis. Is it a purely natural phenomenon, or is it another carefully selected problem for which they have a pre-packaged and far more terrifying solution? The truth behind net zero will force you to question everything.